basically just cursing me out, repeatedly calling me the N-word, and then he starts coming towards me like at a fast pace. And at this point, I don't know what to do.
I'm not just a pretty girl, I'm more than just a picture. I'm a daughter and a sister. Sometimes it's hard for me to show that I'm more than just a rumor or a song on your computer. There's more to me than people know.
Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new, thanks for tuning in. So yeah, this is going to be a story time video about the first time I was called the N-word. Now I can make light of the situation. Some time has passed since it has happened. I mean, everybody is going to perceive this video differently. It took me a while to decide whether or not I was going to tell this story to the world. Only like a select few know about the situation, and I was hesitant to post about it because it's a touchy subject. It's definitely something different compared to all the other content on my platform, but given the current state of our country, it seems like we're in the middle of a race war with the current election and everything. I feel like a lot of people may be able to relate to this story, and so I figure, you know what the heck, I'm gonna share it, I'm gonna tell my experience, and maybe someone watching this will be able to connect to the story and maybe feel a little bit better about their experience, depending on how they feel about my story. So, just a little bit of background. I grew up, even though I was born in Brooklyn, New York, I grew up in North Carolina, so I was always in predominantly white spaces, predominantly white schools, my neighborhood predominantly white. I was always surrounded by white people. It was very common for me to be the only black person in the classes that I was in. I went to a predominantly white institution for university, so again, most of my life I was surrounded by predominantly white people. I never felt like I was being overtly discriminated against. I never was called the N-word. I never experienced like overt or direct racism, and I always, for the most part, felt very comfortable in these spaces that I was in. I had diverse groups of friends, so yeah, I never felt uncomfortable, and so it was shocking to me to have experienced this first occasion in one of the most diverse, if not the most diverse cities that I've ever lived in. I was shocked that this happened here. Let's get into it. Basically, it was around like 9:40 at night. I was in Times Square walking to my destination. I was on FaceTime with my friend at the time, and ironically enough, I was talking to her about the prominence of people experiencing homelessness in New York and how mental health issues were super prevalent in New York, and that it was sad. I was telling her how I was sad that people who are homeless don't have access to healthcare, let alone mental health services to deal with these issues. And so I was telling her that it was really scary walking around by myself, whether it be at night or in the daytime, because I would be approached by people who are homeless and experiencing mental health issues in like aggressive ways, and it was just like really traumatizing to me. I think since moving to New York, I think that has been like one of my biggest things to overcome, just being constantly exposed to that, and seeing people sleeping on the streets, seeing people talking to themselves and yelling at passerbyers, and just really like being aggressive. It took a toll on me because I wasn't used to seeing that like my whole life. And so I was explaining to her like how I was having nightmares about this population, and this is not something that I could help. I would literally just go to sleep and I would always have nightmares. I had nightmares for about the first 2 to 3 months of me living in New York officially, and so it was really taking a toll on me. So I was explaining all of this to her, and at the time I had reached like the crosswalk, I had reached the light, and I was the only one on my side of the street. But there was a man who appeared to be homeless and who appeared to be talking to himself and having a very serious, like angry conversation with whoever he was talking to, but nobody was there. It was just he and I on this side of the road. Now, he was actually in the street, but thankfully no cars were coming, so like he didn't get hit or anything, but I was on the sidewalk and no one else was there. And so he happened to turn and he saw me, and so his attention was taken away from this voice that he was talking to, and it was directed towards me. And so when he looked at me, I automatically got nervous, because you never know like if they're gonna approach you or like what they're gonna do. And if you live in New York, or you've been to New York, you understand where I'm coming from. I'm not trying to be, you know, discriminatory or like talk negatively on people who are homeless or people who are experiencing mental health issues. But if you don't have a lot of experience with these populations, sometimes it can be a little bit nerve-wracking because you never know how to handle it. You never know how they're going to react. You just never know. So he turns his attention towards me. He's like, "What are you looking at, you stupid? You need to go back to where you came from, you stupid. It's too many in this gosh darn city." Sorry, I'm trying to bleep this out as much as I can. But he's basically just cursing me out, repeatedly calling me the N-word, and then he starts coming towards me like at a fast pace. And at this point, I don't know what to do because my crosswalk light is red, so I can't like run across the street because I would like get hit by a car or whatever. But thankfully, like when he got like close enough to me, the light turned white, like the little man came on, so I was able to cross the street. So I like ran across the street, and the people who were on the other side of the crosswalk like started coming towards me, so like we were able to pass, and like yeah, that happened. But like even after I crossed the street, I could still hear him like yelling at me, and I was the only black person like in sight, and so I was like his direct target. My friend was on FaceTime with me at the time, and so she's like, "Oh wow, what's going on? I'm like, "Do you hear this guy?" So she did provide some comfort to me. The fact that she was on the phone provided some comfort to me, but it was a very nerve-wracking experience. I was thankful that the light changed when it did, because honestly I don't know what I would have done had he gotten close to me. You know, you have flight or fight or freeze, and I definitely would have frozen. I definitely would have froze in that situation. Like I said, I don't have a lot of experience working with people who have mental health issues, and so yeah, I wouldn't have known how to handle that situation. But talking about the aftermath of that situation, it was my first time being called the N-word, so I think there was a lot of shock factor to the experience, so it didn't really hit me emotionally until like the next day after, when I was like telling my mom and my dad about the situation. But I think given the context of my situation, because it was said by someone who I know isn't all the way there in the head, coming from someone that I know who has, you know, has or is currently experiencing homelessness, coming from someone who I know is not all the way there, I don't think I was as hurt by it, because like I know, to me, I was just saying, oh, he doesn't know what he's saying. Like, he's probably drunk. He's probably, like, on drugs. This, that, and third. Even though racism is probably still, like, embedded in him, because, you know, they say drunk minds yield sober thoughts. And so, yeah, he probably was a racist, but, you know, I didn't feel as bad given his circumstances and given his mental state at the time. So this may differ from everyone else's experiences. Anyone else who has ever been called the N-word or any other racial slur, it probably impacted you on an emotional level a little bit deeper than the situation impacted me, based on if this person was in their right mind, if this person was fully aware of everything that they were saying, if they were fully aware of their intent to hurt you emotionally. You may have been a little bit more sad about the experience. Say like the first like day or two afterwards, I felt a little iffy about it, but I think I was more so just shaken up at the fact that I was being cursed out for just standing on the street. So that's that. And the sad thing about it is this happens often in New York. If you live in New York, you know how it is dealing with the population of people who are homeless, dealing with the population of people who are struggling with substance abuse, alcohol abuse, and mental health issues. It's very hard. It can be frustrating. That when I first moved to New York, I didn't have headphones. And I tell you, I knew immediately after like the first 2 months of not having headphones, I was like, oh, like I need to get headphones immediately, because sometimes you just need to like block out the sound, because you have people yelling at themselves, yelling at other people for no reason. You just hear the craziest things. And so getting headphones is definitely a great investment for the sake of my mental health. But it is sad seeing this population of people go underserved. Like, we honestly don't have enough people who care enough to assist these people and to provide services pro bono, because these people can't afford it. Honestly, it's not my intention to alienate these populations of people. It's not my intention to talk down on these populations of people, but experiences like these really shine a light on how the system is failing these populations of people. And yeah, it's really disheartening to see. But yeah, that was my experience on the first time that I was called the N-word. I hope I never experience it again. Anyone watching this, I hope that you don't have to go through it. But if you do, understand that there's more wrong with the person who is saying it than what's wrong. Then there is that's wrong with you, if that makes sense. I don't know. I tried to be deep and I don't even think that made sense. But just know that the person who calls you that racial slur is dealing with their own internal problems, and you shouldn't internalize how they're projecting that on you. So just let it, I know that its roots are deeply embedded in us as Black people, as African Americans, but you just gotta let it roll off your shoulders, because if you take that and you internalize that, then it's gonna impact you emotionally, it's gonna impact your mental health, and that's exactly what they want. They want to bring you down. That they want to continue to oppress you. So you can't allow those words to take a toll on you in general, if that makes sense. And I know it's easier said than done, but just remember that if a situation presents itself where you're being discriminated against or someone is yelling racial slurs at you, just, it's above me now. Remember that thing that people used to say, like, it's above me now.
Society, I was sorry. I understand that, but it's above me now.
If any of you have any stories of a time that you've been called the N-word or have been discriminated against or have been called any other racial slur, I would be interested in talking with you guys more about that, given that I haven't had a lot of experience with it and I'm sure many people have. So I would just like to get your take on how you handled the situation, how it made you feel. I would like to talk about it. Let's open the discussion. Let's talk about it. Feel free to shoot me a message on Instagram at Thomasina Myrisa, or comment down below. We can start an engagement down in the comments if you guys feel comfortable doing that. But I know sometimes these situations people would like to keep private. Like me, I wanted to keep this private for some time, but I figured, what the heck, I'll share it with you guys. That's all I have to say on that situation. I'm not going to dwell on it any longer. It is out for the universe to see and watch and hear and take of this what you will. But thank you guys for tuning in. As always, I will catch you in the next video. Bye.
'Cause I'm not just a pretty girl.